Christ
switches
to the disciples at the
yeah.
end.
Yeah.
Oh, good. I kept thinking,
I was thinking, who cares who he's talking to? I can't remember what he said. Sometimes it helps picture the scene though. Yeah, it does.
right, he's in front of the
I
crowd.
was lost in the long robes.
Yeah.
Respectful reading.
Respectful
May not be necessary to
marketplace.
talk about
The
it,
big
he's talking to us.
So what do we do next?
This place, we try to remember this note.
Ask for a volunteer.
No.
We haven't told it yet, have we? Oh, we're in preparation.
Preparation.
We're in
So we
preparation.
prepare with each other, trying to think what we did.
What's the second step in preparation?
We start getting
Work on
the
the
spiritual
content.
truths.
No, that's later.
Yeah, we're getting close. You remember the two
What's
kinds
the situation?
you're getting close. You're getting close.
You can be from the situation.
Would you just, since this is a training video, would you go through the steps, you
Yeah.
pray, and then, and just have them video that, please?
Yeah, we
Steps.
will, but
Yes.
I want them to remember it, because that's part of the whole pass-off thing here. But we'll review that on that for the video.
Have you started the video?
Yeah, it's going. Yeah, so step one was pray, and then what do we do after that? Learn the story. Yeah, right.
Dana, I need to
Spiritual
talk a little louder, this is the other camera.
Okay. And
Slower, please.
okay.
Step one is pray, step two.
Observations.
Yes, okay. Good. So we look for spiritual observations next. And how do we do that? How do we find spiritual observations in the story?
Go through it like verse by verse and start discussing it and see what we get out of it.
It's like Donna remembers.
Repeating it, going back and.
Okay, right. We kind of break it into sections. And,
Don't you start with what's the situation?
you're getting close. Yeah. Where did that idea come from? What part of the training does that come from? Do you remember? That's one of the questions we ask. Are there any other questions we ask?
Oh, we ask a bunch of questions.
We need to
Why
find
is
out
it
his
speech?
questions.
What did people say or do?
Yeah. Okay.
What did they, other choices?
Do you remember kind of the name they gave that set of questions you're thinking of?
Wise counselor
Yeah,
questions.
okay, there we go. Okay. So we use our wise counselor questions to find the spiritual observations. So what are the wise counselor questions?
Do you remember the wise counselor story?
No. It's been a long
Not
time
enough
now.
to tell it.
Right, yeah.
Why don't you do that, Dana?
Okay,
Can you do that?
I'll try. Yeah, let's
Oh,
see.
good.
That's the difference. Yeah, going through it twice instead of just once. But let's see if I can remember. So there was a tribe of people that were having a dispute over some water rights or something like that, and they were not getting the argument settled, and so they called in a guy from outside, an older guy that was known for his wisdom, to come in and mediate the dispute. And so he came and he asked him, okay, tell me the whole story. He told him the whole story, and then he said, okay, let's go back through it more carefully, more slowly now. Tell me, what happened before the dispute started? What was going on before this water dispute started? And then in each section of the story, he would stop them and ask different questions like, okay, what were people doing? What were people saying? What choices did people make? And what were the results of their choices? And what other choices could they have made instead? And so we did that for each section of the story. And then we got to the end, we kind of asked him about what were the long-term results of the decisions that were made in the story. That's about as much as I remember.
What do we learn about God?
And what
Yeah.
happened because of that?
That'd be kind of like results or impact.
When he got through the story, what did they tell him?
I don't remember. What did they say?
We figured it out.
Okay.
We don't just, we got it settled.
It helped them figure out the answer for themselves.
That was the whole deal. They got through to the end. Oh, we made all these wrong decisions. This is what we did.
Okay.
And we know how to fix it now.
Okay. Good. And so then you're right. The one about what we learned about God doesn't fit into the wise counselor story, but that's another one to remember in addition to the wise counselor questions.
Okay, I didn't realize it wasn't.
Isn't that part, the
Doesn't-
wise counselor, story is in the manual, it's not,
It is.
it has nothing about God, it's just sort of a word picture of what we're doing.
To help remember some. So anyways, so what's the first section of the story?
I'm sorry, say that
What's
again?
like the first section of the story that we're?
Jesus continued his teaching.
Yes,
Okay.
he's teaching to the crowd, and he's giving them a
Beware
warning
of the
of the
scribes.
scribes.
They desire to wear long robes.
Okay.
And love greetings in the
They like to
marketplace.
make things, they like to sit in the front of the
The
synagogue.
best seats in the synagogue,
Honored
and the
places
best
of
places
banquets.
in
Place
the
of honor in the
feasts.
banquets.
Devour
Widows'
widows'
houses,
houses.
and for a show. yeah,
Say long prayers,
Say
this
long
word
prayers.
Prayers.
And,
They will receive
receive
greater.
greater condemnation.
Good, okay,
That's great.
yeah. We could continue.
What a team.
Yes.
So together, we tell the story together, we'll get
Yes,
it.
yes.
Okay,
I am
so,
getting much better at this from practice, just this part. I couldn't do this at all the first time.
you mean being able to say the story back or the question?
Remember it? We would practice with Caroline for 10 minutes and I couldn't remember even the first 3 words.
It's hard
It's
one,
confusing.
for, sometimes it's hard to make the break from trying to be word perfect to just get it kind of detail perfect, which is, but the system that they have given us of reading it and then closing it and saying as much as you can and stuff kind of helps. It really works. It's amazing what your brain can do actually.
They,
Whether I can remember it tomorrow, I don't know, but.
they remind you to read it out loud, and they have example after example, and people, Dorothy said, did you read it out loud? I said, no, go back and read it out loud.
Yeah.
I have to move, that's why I went in the laundry room.
You
Yeah,
can't be lazy, you have to really.
No, I have to move, I have to
Right.
act it out,
Yeah.
and then
I
I
could rather
remember
sit
it.
back and not, okay, but when you get going into it, it's great, I love, it keeps you going.
It's pretty easy if you, the first part, you visualize a long robe greeting in the marketplace, sitting right in the front of your church, you're sitting right in the front seat,
That's good.
and you're, the first in line at the potluck. That's how I learned it. I related it to me doing all those things.
You're getting a bit spiritual applications already, come back to
Probably.
observation.
A little
Yes,
bit.
we're just.
Okay, so we're back at the beginning of the story now.
So pick one of the questions and ask it about the story.
What are the people doing that Jesus is describing? What are they doing?
Okay.
The scribe?
Yeah, the scribes, he's giving a warning about what are they doing that he's warning about.
Good job.
Generally speaking,
Yeah, those
attracting,
those things, of those
doing
things.
things to
that-
attract attention.
Very good, yeah.
And for religious
Right.
observances, I guess.
Attention and honor,
Mhm.
because you can do things that attract attention.
They're covering up evil that they're not.
Oh, they're devouring?
Yeah, devouring
Right.
widows' houses under the pretense of being,
That's the second half of it. The first half is,
just the first part, right, you're supposed to.
no, they're coveting really the position, the food, the robes, everything. They're coveting the whole thing.
Do they think they deserve the best?
Oh yeah.
Good point.
And they think the other people don't,
What makes them different from the other people?
the scribes. They have position.
So what other choices could they make?
There you go.
Yes.
The scribes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think they would make another choice.
If you were a scribe, you wouldn't, huh?
What was a,
What would Jesus do?
Yeah, they could choose to be servant leaders.
maybe in the introduction, someone needs to understand what the scribe, what they were supposed to be doing in the first place.
They can go back and watch the video from last time when we talked about scribes. I'm kidding.
No, I mean,
I'll come look it up real
Daniel,
quick.
you gave a definition of what a scribe did.
Isn't it a teacher? A religious teacher?
Yes.
Expert in, like, we're
Old
not-
Testament
Law.
law.
Yeah,
Law,
that's right.
yeah,
Don't say
scribes and
Mosaic. Old
Old
Testament.
Testament.
Old Testament law, an expert.
Yes.
So they were supposed to teach the people how to come to God and how to serve God, or whatever, something about God.
Okay.
So their teaching was modeling what? Pride? At least pride.
So
They
oth-
want the places, the seats of honor, they want the seats of honor at the banquet?
So other choices to teach the Old Testament law, what could they have done?
That's good, yeah,
Yeah.
ma'am.
With each
I'm
of the,
asking the question.
with each of the, you got something there?
By the time of Jesus, the scribes were a new upper class among the Jewish people. There's a lot more, but I don't.
They promoted themselves?
Right, their official interpretation of the meaning of the law eventually became more important than the law
Yeah, they-
itself. That's what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're wearing long robes, which
They're-
presumably were expensive. So what could they have done
Okay.
instead? If they were really going to model the Old Testament law to the people, what could they have done instead?
If they're modeling the Old Testament law.
They could have dressed like everybody else.
Yeah. One of the
More
jeans.
modestly,
Yeah.
they could have worn more modest clothing in terms of cost and
But didn't in the Old Testament times, didn't priests and scribes, they wear according to their,
priests.
according to what they were in
But
culture?
scribes aren't priests.
No, but I'm just giving that as a, scribes, priests, what else were, what I mean,
And
to point them out, because,
the
Oh, you're
priests
saying,
though were only,
you think a scribe had to dress a distinctive way or people wouldn't know he was a scribe, is that kind of what you're saying?
Maybe
that's
they,
what I was wondering.
maybe they wanted to dress in a distinctive way so people would
They
know they were
did,
scribes.
that they were wearing
But was
white
that
robes.
necessary?
give them honor.
Was it
Yeah.
ordained by God
That's what-
as
yeah, do you know
a
the-
part of their office?
No.
Not that I saw.
So they added to what God has already said that they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think the priestly garments were only when they were like
That's true.
in a service doing
That's true.
sacrifices.
And that was a
Right.
priest, not a scribe. A
Right.
scribe is not the same.
Okay. It's
So
sort of,
nothing by law said they had to wear the long robes.
right, yeah, no, they just did that. 'Cause
Okay, that was, yeah, it was what
I got thinking about like, at graduations, people wear robes
Mhm.
to look fancy, and then in a courtroom, judges will wear robes to look dignified. So even today, we still kind of have that custom of if you want to really dress up to wear a robe.
Like in India, we had
Oh,
thrones.
that's right. Really had to get.
Yeah, well, that was different. Yeah. So do we agree then that they didn't have to but chose to?
Mm-hmm.
And what would be their motivation?
What is a teenager when he wears the same thing as everybody else? They become, they want to belong, they want to be noticed, they want to be part of a group for safety. There's security in numbers. There's once in a while you have somebody that is different with freaky hair or whatever, and they don't care what anybody thinks.
Were the scribes trying to fit in?
With the other scribes.
With the scribes, with their own, they were
Right.
trying to be their own class of
Yeah,
people, it sounds like.
In the story, are they traveling in a group or alone? Does it,
The scribes, or
Mhm.
he just talks about the scribes. I would
There's
think that
not-
the scribes belong to each.
It says plural anyway, it's scribes.
We
not
don't know that there's even any scribes
there.
right there. He said beware of the scribes.
right.
He's not addressing scribes, he's not pointing to them.
Well, I'm just trying to get at, were they dressing this special way to fit in with each other or to
Oh, I see.
attract the attention of others?
Okay,
What
yes.
what do you, what
I
do you?
think
from-
could attract.
I think to
From
attract
what
From
Jesus
just
is
saying.
saying, it sounds like they're doing it to attract the attention.
It
Okay.
wasn't like they just wore the robes to their own little quick meeting. It was they
Right.
wore that in public.
What a bore that would be, yeah.
Right.
Right.
I think it's, look at me, I'm a scribe.
Mm-hmm.
So they dressed in a way so that they would receive recognition and honor from people.
Okay. What was the next thing they did?
They loved the
According
greetings
to
in the
Jesus.
marketplace.
Greetings. Respectful greetings is what my translation said.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be different than a friendly greeting?
Mm-hmm.
I would think a respectful greeting is saying that and basically you're looking up to that person with respect instead of just saying hi to somebody out in the know.
Are they looking for that commendation for being a scribe by how Are they waiting for that respectful greeting? They might, you know,
No, you're
they
going
go,
that
if
place.
they go to the marketplace to get that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, to get that,
So, fix.
yeah,
Yeah.
Take
yeah.
a little extra time to
Do we have
figure out
an
their
interpretation
energy.
of that word from the Greek, please? Because there's different,
What's that?
there's
For-
different
for
versions about
greeting?
whether it was respectful greeting, friendly greeting, what does the Greek say?
I
What
don't
do
know,
we
I
have?
don't have to be with me.
Probably a good idea to, those kind of things are important
Did
because,
somebody have a translation? They
Love
didn't say
greetings in the marketplaces is all that mine
Okay.
right,
says.
mine doesn't have anything about,
Love greetings in the
Right. what's
marketplaces.
ESV?
They love to be greeted.
So does that mean we're not sure if it was a friendly greeting or if there was a different
Like
character?
greetings in the marketplace.
That, I don't know whose version said respectful.
I don't-
Mine is the
American
NASB.
Standard.
I don't think,
Okay, so that is different than all the others, and perhaps that is a.
King James says love,
They love the greetings in the marketplace.
and like in the
well, they would
ESV,
not love them if they were not good, friendly, respectful greetings. I mean,
So, yeah, but, okay, so we'll leave the word respectful out, since we're not sure.
Now, the New Living says, just for fun,
oh,
For they,
you know.
for they like to parade around in flowing robes and receive respectful greetings as they walk in the marketplace.
Okay, let's see.
I have a picture in my
I
mind.
know.
I was thinking, nobody probably came up and gave them a hug in the marketplace, that would be.
No,
That
right.
wouldn't be
No,
respectful.
that wouldn't be.
No, it's like, hello, Your Honor, kind of.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, I'm thinking, we'd have to know the culture, but there was probably a specific way that they were greeted.
It's possible.
You're probably right.
Okay, let's see, what's the next?
So after the greetings in the marketplace, I'm stuck on the potluck still. What did they do? What did they do
That's
next?
not the second thing.
Oh, it was the chief,
They're
the,
sitting in the
Seats in
front
the
seats.
synagogue.
The
The
best
seats
seats.
in the synagogue.
Yes.
The best seats, front seats. What does everybody say? The chief seats,
Chief
the best,
seats.
the front,
I
mine
think-
says front seat, I think.
Best seats and places of honor. Front seats.
The front seats, this one says.
Best place, no, best seats, yeah.
So was this a culture where important people sat in certain places and the riffraff sat other places? Is that what's implied here?
could be.
Do you remember the book of James? The rich guy got put up in the front, right? And the poor guy was
Okay.
in the back?
Because they used to do that in Puritan, New England, but I
So, where did the chief priest sit then?
You used to have to buy your seats, your pews.
That's right.
Mhm.
Whoever
Yes,
could
so
afford to
you
buy
were
them sat
organized
sitting
by
in the back.
income level in the church, but.
And that, is, Jesus would.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sure. So if we were going to ask a wise counselor question at this point, what would come in good here?
How does Jesus describe these scribes? How does he describe their interaction with the other people?
I think you mean specifically with the chief seats, then, right?
That's the section we're on
Yeah,
right now.
yeah.
I'm on the first part about they went to go around the long roads, they went to greetings in the marketplace, they went front seats in the synagogue, and the place of honor at the banquet. How is Jesus describing, what is he saying about the scribes, how they interact with common people?
That in public,
They want a lot of,
want the recognition, the best, the,
And they're setting themselves above
yes,
common people.
There you go.
yes.
yeah, they're not modeling humility
No.
and,
They could have done that in this case. The choice they could have made instead would be to sit down on the ground or whatever and let the old ladies have the nice seats or something, or, whoever the needy people would be in there. Yeah, yeah, there you go.
Widows sit up in the front, so
the
people
widows sit up in the front so they can hear.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see,
So what's the next part?
banquets.
Yeah, the honored seats at banquets.
Sounds like it's it's a common thing in the culture that there are good seats and there are bad seats at all these events. And they want the good seats. And
They want the place where they will be acknowledged by the people as being worthy of being honored.
Notice their position.
Yep, to notice their position. They want public recognition of their importance.
Even at big banquets nowadays, you sometimes have something like that, like a head table, you know, where the speakers are all sitting up front, you know, sit at a special table or something like that. So maybe that's kind of a modern.
And in sports, they have skyboxes.
Yeah.
And you get better food, better, you know, you don't eat with plastic, you have real dishes and stuff.
Okay.
Isn't it good to be older and you don't care about that stuff?
So we're from the
Plastic's fine.
synagogues to the banquets, and the next
Is-
part is they will receive the greater condemnation.
No,
they
they
devour
devour
widows'
widows'
Oh, they
houses. That's the
devour.
part that
Devour
I would
widows'
like
houses and say
us to
no
figure
prayer.
out. I do not understand that.
How do you eat in a house?
What, yeah, right.
I think
You know, the
they're-
picture in my mind isn't,
Possibly collecting on a debt,
describe, I mean,
so you repossess the house or something?
it sounds something like that's what's happening, but how do they have,
They're taking property for payment of
yeah,
a
how
debt.
do they have the authority to?
Think about in this story, do we have, if you think about the whole story we're looking at, do you have any clues maybe on how they did on those houses?
Well, they're wealthy. They're wealthy from what Deanna read. They're wealthy people. So if someone was going to borrow money, they potentially could lend. And if they lent a widow money and then she couldn't repay, I don't know what, you can't eat a house. It's gotta be something.
Right.
Jews were not allowed to charge other Jews
I'm
interest.
thinking, a widow is helpless. I mean,
But we know they did.
And in the New Testament,
I thought they couldn't charge interest.
That's right, they're not allowed
Right.
to do that to
Okay.
a Jew.
they weren't allowed to charge
Right,
interest.
so,
Only aliens they could charge interest.
Well, is it interest to repossess a house to pay a debt?
Sure.
Well, that's what was happening to that lady that had the pot of oil.
Right.
They were gonna
And
take her
But that-
house probably.
They were
That
doing
wasn't
it
a
in
scribe
Nehemiah.
or
I'm
Pharisee.
in chapter 5, and they're doing it in Nehemiah, so.
yeah, too.
Think about it, think about the second half of the story, does it give us any clue on how?
Because it goes into the money, into,
Well, the scribes are part of the rich people.
And then,
The widows would give money to the church.
yeah,
Because they
right,
wanted to support the men
Right.
of God.
right.
Except that was
So,
not
you know, it could be, it could be that part of the way they devoured it was in their teaching, they would say, you know, even if you're poor, you gotta give to God, and maybe, you know, maybe kind of like the TV evangelist, you know, send me your last dollar and God will multiply it 100-fold for you, or whatever, you know, maybe they did something kind of like that, and so they're manipulating, somehow, I'm speculating, but
Scare
in the
tactic.
context of the story, what we see happen right after this?
Well, I'm still thinking something has to happen to the house, otherwise why mention it?
You know, I think that may be just like households an analogy or something.
Could be to devour their
I was thinking
household,
house
their
as a-
resources.
Resources?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're thinking it's not literal that they repossess the house and she's
And it's more,
Yeah, because a lot of times Jesus uses analogies just to make a point or.
Is it
Do
really
we have a way in that
important
story of figuring it out?
whether that they're taking
We just-
resources or taking the
right,
actual
we just
physical
know that
house?
they are not,
They're taking away from poor people is what it's
Mhm.
saying, the
Right.
very poorest of the poor,
Poor,
which would be the widow.
very
Instead
good,
of,
very
instead of
good.
helping
Yeah.
them, which,
Very good.
you know, God wanted us to help the poor.
Well, that would be a
we're
question,
hurting
what
them.
other choices
Right.
would they have in
Mhm.
dealing with widows?
You can bring the widows into their houses.
Or help them keep their
Or,
own.
yeah, right, you know, give them the resources they need to get the food or whatever it is they need.
Well, it seems like, if you look at the rest of the story, instead of taking the coins from the widow, they should be giving to the widows. And,
Yeah, those rich people should have
because
been.
the rich people are throwing all sorts of coinage into the offering box, but it doesn't sound like any of that money is being shared with the poor. So, in terms of other choices, what could they do?
Instead of dumping it in that offering plate, they could have just turned around and said like, hey, don't stick those coins in there, I'll give you a few more, go with them.
Well, and the other thing is Jesus said they
No,
out of their surplus.
you want to give her the privilege of giving, but separately, you go around and meet her need. I mean, everybody should give. That's the heart of God,
Yeah.
So that was wonderful she gave. What an example here. But later on, they should minister to her.
Well, I
She's
don't
part of the
remember all the
community of
details of
Israel.
Old Testament law, but there was lots of stuff in there about sharing with the poor. Whether widows probably were too old to glean, but it seems like the scribes could have influenced what happened to the money in the offering box so that the law was met, but the extra would not go to line people's pockets, but be used to help the poor. And so if when you talk about what other choices did they have, they weren't using their influence for anything except getting honor for themselves. They were not trying to help the powerless people.
And Richard.
Let's stay in the first part of the story just for a minute. I wanted to, is there a relationship between they're parading around in these robes, they want the greetings, they want the place of honor right in front of the synagogue where they're supposed to be hearing the word of God, and they want, the best food at the banquet, and then he jumps into, that they're devouring the widows' houses, and they just say prayers for show. Another choice, instead of doing this, drawing attention to themselves, and why are they not out being involved in helping widows and doing what they were supposed to do? If they were really sitting in the front, listening to the word of God, why are they not responding in obedience to what God had already told them?
Exactly.
So their choice could have been, I think I'll skip the banquet this time and go, or take some of that food from the banquet to this widow who doesn't have hardly any food to eat.
Well, yeah, does the widow even get to go to the banquet?
Probably not. Definitely won't have a place.
She's going to the big one.
So what other choices do they have? How about we, instead of having the big banquet, how about we start a soup kitchen or whatever?
Or distribute food to the poor,
Yeah.
yes.
Give to the poor.
It is interesting how that just the way Jesus lined it up in their at banquets, they devour, but what they're eating is not the corn of the cows, the widow's houses. Interesting.
Right, because you go right from thinking of someone with this luxurious spread of food, and then you go and you think of somebody in their house, they're so poor, whatever that means, that possibly they don't even have bread on the table, or whatever. Maybe they have nothing to eat.
So what it almost seems like he was painting a picture of their lifestyle, and then comes the impact, in a sense.
How do you mean?
Well, their lifestyle is, it's all about me. I have the fancy clothes, and people are greeting me in the marketplace because I'm the center of the universe. And what was the next thing he did? Best seat in the synagogue. Everybody's got to see that I'm in church today. And so it is all about me. But because I'm not really doing what God intended for religious instructors to do, the widow is going to lose their house, because that's what this guy should be doing. He should be helping the poor. He should be teaching people to help the widows and to make sure they don't lose their houses or whatever else they have. But instead he's just,
So there's an immediate contrast between their opulent lifestyle and the dark poverty of this woman and in fact, it's worse than that. It says the scribes are devouring the widow's house.
I still think
It's not just somebody else is doing it, it's them.
I still think, that they're the lender or whatever that these people are in debt to. But
You're almost into
It said they're gonna receive a greater
application
punishment.
there.
Yeah, we're getting
I'm
You're-
trying not to.
You're almost
No,
rubbing the
No,
thing.
just an observation, the scribes themselves are doing this to these widows.
yes, I believe that is implied there, that he's well, not implied, he's saying it. They're devouring the houses.
there's somebody else besides the scribes in the first section we can learn a lesson about. Somebody else makes a choice here.
In the first section?
In the first section, yes.
Sharing about Jesus?
Yeah. Good. What do we learn about what choices did Jesus make here?
He
Chose
does,
to confront the religious
yeah, he
establishment.
doesn't mind offending
Yeah, right.
scribes.
He's talking about the scribes into the crowd. He chooses to address the crowd.
Mhm.
There are scribes in the crowd,
Pharisees and yes.
and probably a bunch of other people, but he's choosing.
Widows.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So he's choosing to rebuke
Mhm.
in public
Mhm.
the scribes, these honored people.
Mhm.
He's trying to speed up his crucifixion.
Sure that helps.
Yeah.
So he's not concerned about offending them.
Mhm. Mhm.
He
No.
also pronounces judgment on them, which indicates that he's God.
Well, and he warns the people not to listen and respect them, but to beware of them.
Okay, that's a good
Okay,
one.
because that's what kind of blows the cover of what they're doing. The reason why they're hanging around the marketplaces is because they want the respectful readings. So next time the people who are listening to Jesus go to the marketplace and see so and so, they're probably going to be a little less inclined to.
Yeah, I would be sitting there thinking, you're doing this so that I'll greet you, you know, you're,
So that's why they wear the long robes all the time.
and a pretense of long prayers.
And they're the ones that took 10 commands and created 200 or 300 of them.
Well, I was just thinking the long prayers, a pretense of long prayers.
I think it was the Pharisees.
Yeah, you're
The
right.
scribes, all they do is,
Presumably these
Translate,
are
I mean,
public
rewrite.
prayers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what's the pretense for? You know? So presumably these are public prayers. That means that the people that Jesus is addressing in the crowd, you know, beware the scribes, they make a pretense of long prayer. So the next time the crowd sees one of these guys praying, that's what's going to be going through their mind is, you're just faking it.
Yeah, they probably have the fancy words and the scripture and everything, but their heart's not in it.
Well, I would be questioning if I was just a regular person in the crowd. I would be thinking, are you really praying for us, or do you care about us?
If you were standing right next to a scribe,
Right. I'd be sitting
how would
there,
that scribe feel? How would you feel?
you're rich, I'm poor, you got the fancy clothes, I don't. You're praying out loud, but I don't know that I believe that you mean it. That, ooh, no wonder they wanted to kill him.
Yeah.
It's the same the world around. Whenever somebody gets powerful, they want more for themselves.
Yeah.
Like Gaddafi, you know, they all do, and the guy that was head of the Palestinian song, you know, they all funneled off millions and millions instead of helping the people that they were supposed to help.
is this not the time to talk about what happens as part of this story?
No, go ahead, sure.
This was, just to
That'd be the
clarify what's
setting.
going
The
on.
question about what was the setting or what happened before that'd be it.
Jesus is teaching in the temple complex, number one, and he's asking this question: how can the scribes say that the Messiah is the son of David? David himself says, by the Holy Spirit, the Lord declared to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies under your feet. David himself calls him Lord. How then can the Messiah be his son? And the large crowd was listening to him with delight. And then right after that, so all of chapter 12 is the scribes and the Pharisees are trying to get rid of Jesus big time. He just made his triumphal entry. This is the last week, this is the last thing. And so he is declaring clearly that he is the Messiah, that you can see it yourself from what David said about him, called him Messiah's son. So the crowd was delighted, but as soon as he said that, he was actually, it says here, how can the scribes say the Messiah is the son of David? These scribes, like he said, are standing around listening to him say that, and then he right after that, warns against the scribes.
Okay.
First, he exposes their wrong teaching, So after he's exposed their wrong teaching, then he gives further teaching to the people about a warning about the scribes. Don't listen to them. They don't believe I'm the Messiah. Don't believe I'm the Son of God. So I don't know if you need to do that in the introduction, but this is not his first message to the people about the scribes. This is at least the second in this series of teachings where he's at the temple.
Well, I think if you were gonna teach this part, if you had been working through the stories, I would at least remind the group of where we are, you know, because if you read each one of the Gospels, it builds, the conflict builds. I mean, it starts
Yeah.
out like rosy, Jesus, oh, everybody's happy, you know, the Messiah's here, is this guy the Messiah? And then it gets very dark. There's a lot of conflict. They start talking about killing him. So I think you have to remind people, where are we in the, you know, as the plot builds, you know. The music would get scary in this part of it. The music would get scary. You'd know somebody, you know, the guy with the chainsaw is going to burst out of the closet or whatever. So I think that would be important in the intro, is just to briefly remind people where we're at. And
We should move on to the second half of the story now. What we'll probably attempt to do is just get preparation finished, and then one of you can prepare to tell the story next time we get together. And see if I can have a couple weeks to whatever practice.
that's enough. Where
And
are we? Remind me.
so we kind of covered the first half of the story with Jesus' denunciation of the scribes.
We know it pretty good, really, don't we?
Then he went and sat across from the treasury, or should we say offering
Offering box?
Yeah, I
box,
see what you're
and
saying.
watched the people put the money into the box, and he noticed that many of the rich people put in great amounts.
Mhm.
And then he called the disciples over.
The
And then
widow. Widow came first, and then God's mom.
Mhm.
Yeah, she had it.
So Donna, say it. What?
I-
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So after the rich had put in
Now I
money,
don't know where I'm at.
The rich put in abundance, and then what happens next?
the widow,
Mm-hmm.
The widow came in and she put in 2 small coins, and that would be equivalent to about a penny.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then Jesus called his disciples over and said, "Verily I say unto you, the widow put in the most of everybody,
Mhm.
because the others gave of the abundance, and she gave of everything she had, even what she needed to live on."
Mhm.
Yep.
Good job.
Perfect.
Okay.
So,
Let's see. So we got a bunch of choices here.
What did Jesus do?
Mhm.
He
on
sat
the cross.
opposite. He sat there and watched what
Okay.
people were doing.
watching specifically where this collection box is.
How do you think he knew how much they were putting in? Probably something that we should ask people.
Yeah, they probably made it obvious, because they were doing it out of show, just like the scribes were.
I read there's it was not like a box with a whole, like people think it was these, anyway, John MacArthur says there's these kind of trumpet things and the coins make a noise when they go down.
Large noise versus small noise.
And then clink clink versus
Well,
and there were several places where you put in and
it might be helpful in the
it's
introduction.
not secretive.
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
I just wanted to say it was something you would see and hear. It was not real secretive like, paper money dropping in and he saw what was happening and so did everybody else. That's why a Bible commentary is helpful.
If it was noisy, they probably did that to create competition. I'm gonna make no more noise.
Oh, sort of like the other week at Safeway.
Well, they didn't write checks, so Anne, what did the money look like?
There you go, yeah.
There was coins.
Yeah.
They had
Oh.
coined money. They didn't have paper money.
So it would make a lot of noise when it went in.
And it was not a padded box or a little thing. It was, if you go back and you just look under John MacArthur or any good Bible thing that tells, it was apparently shaped in the form of kind of like a trumpet thing and the coins just kind of went down this and to wherever they collected it.
But
It's not like our modern day, I don't know, it's not an offering plate, but it had a place where the coins were dropped in, and maybe they even had like, Zacchaeus, maybe they had bags of money and they just,
there you go, yeah.
and they just dumped the bag of money in, and you see all these coins going down. It was, from the story at least we know, and then from people that study the history of what a synagogue and a temple and what the kinds of things were in the temple, they had this way of collecting money.
What I was thinking is, this is the answer, I was thinking the simplest way maybe to explain it is just people who were bringing a lot of money, since it was coins, they would have a sack or something, you would
Yeah.
see, and then she would see as a 2 coins or whatever.
She did.
So you could kind of tell by just how big the bundle was that they were big money to pull out of and how much they're donating. Whereas, nowadays with a check, they could be writing a check for $1 or for $1,000 and you don't really know. But back then, depending on how much their pockets were bulging or how big a sack they're carrying, you kind of know.
Jesus is not disputing that they gave large sums of money. He's saying, yes, they did.
Right, yeah, no, I just was the whole reason I brought it up was just to ask, because I thought people might, if you're telling somebody that's not familiar with the story, they might be confused, like, how did he know how much money they were sticking in? Did he have, like, really good eyesight, or was it supernatural, the Lord showed him, how much it was, or?
And what you're saying is everybody knew
Yeah, everybody knew.
how much money
Yeah.
everybody was giving because it was coin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that kind of, when he's talking about the scribes and doing everything for show, he's kind of comparing the same thing. These people are putting in large amounts of money for show.
Right, because it's out of their abundance, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, the abundance.
Yeah, out of their surplus, I think is what I was going to say.
That brings up a whole thing I hadn't thought about, which is how would the widow have felt? Because they got apparently whoever decided where the collection thing is going to be, they put it out in a really public area. So how would she have felt, bringing an extra 2 cents to stick in there after all these rich people putting?
She did in the beatings. They did it for show.
So Jesus sat opposite the offering box.
And it's not a box,
Or
that's
whatever.
bad translation.
Where were the disciples?
That's a good question. I was wondering that too.
It's his offering book. And a bunch of them.
The temple place, the area where all this is happening is sort of large, I think, correct? Because Jesus, in the other story, is sitting, observing the people, the Pharisee and the tax collector praying, and one guy's kind of far over there, and the Pharisee's there, and so there's a place for rabbi or other people to sit, and it's kind of an open area, I guess. It's not like a closed room like this, and so people are coming and going, and just going about the business of worshiping God, supposedly. And,
Yeah, because they probably would have been in one of the outer courts.
yeah, the disciples are just probably mingling with the people. They couldn't have been too far away to see.
I'd be watching Jesus wondering what he was doing.
Yeah, it's like, what were they?
If I was a disciple, that's what I'd be going, what
Must
on
have
earth
thought,
is he doing?
Yeah, another one of his weird ideas, It's like,
Well, maybe they were. That's why he called them over.
Yeah.
That's what I would be doing. I would be watching him and then watching what he was watching and wondering what he was doing.
yeah,
So you're kind of wondering, why are the disciples not watching what he's watching already?
yeah.
Why does he
Well, I
have
think
some?
they might be. That's what I'm thinking. But
Maybe
it doesn't really
he
say.
he called them over closer to them so he could privately talk about this.
That's what I was, because he went from the crowds to the disciples, and why did he not say that same thing to the crowd?
Interesting.
When he's watching, is there any mention that he was talking?
Well, just prior to that, he had been.
But then he stopped.
Then he went and sat, yeah.
So he's not talking, he's sitting and he's watching.
But no, whoever said that was making a good point, because he could have just said, hey, everybody,
Right.
instead of just calling over the disciples. He could have said, everybody notice this lady here,
And yeah, maybe he chose not to do that because he didn't want to embarrass her.
Or he didn't want to get stoned that day.
Or have her get stoned.
Good point. She's already lost her house.
So Jesus chose not to share that with the crowd.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly.
The next question. Now, these white ask counselor questions, we're never supposed to ask why.
Right, right.
Cause you can't.
That bugs me.
But you can kind of,
I get yelled at every time.
You can use
Yeah, I did too.
what questions or how questions.
you can kind of get to the same thing by asking what other choices could they have made and then what were the results, and it winds up getting you this pretty much the same.
It gets you the same place.
Yeah. But it
Cause I'm thinking, why didn't he tell everybody? But I
But
can't
the-
ask
But then,
that.
we can't answer that for sure either.
right, that's
No,
why
but
you
that's what
don't-
I'm thinking right
Yeah.
now.
unless the story specifically tells you, and usually stories don't tell you people words. Sometimes they do, but like Jesus tells us, the reason why they're praying long prayers is for show.
Right.
But usually we just have to look at what choices they made and what things happened.
Now, is there a connection between the first half of the story and the second half of this incident of this woman that just gives everything out of her poverty? And please warning, beware of the scribes.
I think there's a connection in the scribes doing things for show and the people that are giving a lot doing it for show.
Well, when he says that,
Do we have clear evidence that they're giving it for show?
no, it just says that they're giving out of their, that she gave more, is what he said. She gave more because.
Proportionally.
Now, more in whose eyes?
Okay.
More in what sense?
And I just noticed another thing. He didn't tell the woman that he noticed what she'd done either.
No. He's drawing it to the disciples'
Yeah, just
attention.
the disciples.
And he normally talks to his disciples to teach them something.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe what is he trying to teach them?
What more looks like?
What, sorry?
What more looks like to God, but
Or
God's
sacrificial
Right,
to
okay,
values.
okay,
God's
Yeah.
true values.
yeah.
yeah,
And-
when you say I gave more, and what does God think more looks like?
What does God value the most? The parading around in the long robes and the long curves for show, or the poor widow that gives out of her poverty everything, since she gave all she possessed, all that she had to live on? What does God value the most? Giving the leftovers, you might say, to God, or giving everything to God?
We, probably all of us give out of our abundance, I mean, for the most. How many times have you given and it was a hardship and the Lord did provide? And how easy is that to do?
This says she put in everything she
Coming
possessed.
home now, that's not good.
She had, she went home and she had nothing.
Yeah.
She gave him all that she had to live on.
Yes, and how, I mean, when I think about her doing that, that's what God, I feel like, wants us to do, but
Daniel did a sermon on that last Sunday, and the top, if you make $20,000 or more a year, you're in the top 3% of the people in the world. And if you make $50,000 or more, you're the top 0.3%.
that's it.
The world.
Of the
They
world.
make us think that if we make 50,000 a year, we're really poor here.
That's right, we think you're below the poverty line.
Right.
You just need to do a little traveling.
I do not get any money for Zach because we make too much money, so for college, and I'm like,
Most of the world lives on $2 or less a day.
okay,
Right.
I'm sheltered here.
But they don't pay rent, and they
Okay.
don't have taxes, and they don't have,
And they don't have this need for luxuries
plumbing.
that.
and they don't have, they have dirt floors
They're-
and grass huts, and
They're
no
growing-
cell phones, and they
Right,
just,
all these.
Growing their own food and bartering, so they're not dealing with money.
they
It's
eat
theirs.
rice. So they eat rice. As long as they have rice, they don't die.
They don't have near.
And they don't live very long either.
Let's see, one of the observations I was thinking about in the second thing there was, the widow gave a gift that really cost her, and the other people, their gift didn't cost them anything.
Right,
And maybe it
exactly.
applies to more than money here.
Yeah, it's the sacrificial giving.
She, out of her poverty, gave what she had. So,
Okay, so who wants to be the one to tell this next time? We'll just give you a little coaching. You can do practice your hand motions and your lead through, which blanks you're gonna leave.
and if two of you wanna try to tell it, get 2 volunteers, that'd be great.
Do it together?
No, it didn't hurt to tell a story right now.
So in other words, so we're just gonna give you practice whoever does.
When is the next time?
That's a good question.
When do you guys wanna do the next one?
2 weeks?
I forgot my calendar.
I'm
Today's
gonna be
13th.
out of town in 2 weeks, but that's fine. I mean, I can just join back in again, but
What day would be in 2 weeks?
27th, 28th, I'll be
27th.
here.
Next week's the 20th.
Actually, yeah, I'll still be here then. On the next Saturday, that'll be
27th?
Will you be gone? You'll be back.
No, he's still there on the 27th.
27th. I'll still be here.
Okay, I will be here. Oh dear.
I would like to, but I have vacation, Bob. I'm
When's your
working
vacation, Bobby?
Monday, and I'm working on Acts 9, 1 through 18 right now, Paul's conversion, and that's really
I
fun.
will tell the story.
But
Are you gonna do it?
I'm going to do it story,
I'll
I'm
tell
going to
the
do it in Sunday
story.
school tomorrow, and then I'm going to do it Monday. I'm going to do the first day story style.
Great.
I'm telling a
Good.
different story,
What are you doing, Carol?
the 21st.
What story are you gonna do on 21st?
It's not, I don't think it's I don't think it's an STS story, it's not on the list, it's, but
But you
it's.
can make it into one.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do, cause I signed up to teach junior high at church.
Oh, wow.
I would learn the stories, and it's, when Abraham makes the covenant with Abimelech, which I have actually never read
I'd have to look that up, yeah.
that closely. This is after Abraham lies to Abimelech about his wife being a
Oh,
sister.
that's right, okay.
So then Abimelech shows up with his general Phicol
Wow.
and says, you know, swear that you won't lie to me again. God is with you in whatever you do. Swear you won't lie to me again, or to my children, or to my grandchildren, or to anyone that lives in the
Yes.
land where you dwell. He makes him swear that. And then Abraham says, your guys stole my wealth. And they make a covenant over this situation. But what I found was interesting is, you know, Abraham's worried about his well, and Abimelech's worried about the man of God lying to him, which is a terrible witness, but that's what happened. And then after that, Abraham plants a tree and prays. And I was thinking,
Have fun. That's a challenging story.
Did you pick that story or did?
it's where we are in the Bible.
Okay.
No, I didn't. I
That's
don't
right.
need to
Yeah,
pick.
right.
He's working through it.
Yeah.
I don't.
So he's going through every story, not just the major ones?
No, he doesn't do the stories. He does verse by verse.
Just
Oh,
these
he's doing the
chapters.
whole Bible.
Yeah, he started in Genesis
Wow.
1, and he's working through the Bible
So
with
he's
these
still in
Genesis.
Genesis.
But I thought of a way to,
2 weeks from now.
we're gonna talk about, before I do the story, we're gonna talk about different ways to
No,
make
I'm-
promises. We're gonna talk about pinky promises, we're gonna talk about making contracts.
Next week.
And so we're gonna do some work with that, so they understand what.
So, do I have a volunteer for next?
Carol said she would do.
Carol?
I'm gonna, I'll be one of the 2 people.
Somebody else.
Okay, I'll do it too.
Okay. And we're gonna try it for the 27th, is that? Okay.
I won't be here, but that's, you know, I'd love to see the video,
Yeah.
but, sorry, I'll be out of town, but, oh, I wanna see you guys. I just love being part of it, it's not, you know, it's.
It's easier to do it with a group than trying
Right,
to do it
yeah,
on your own.
Especially when you're all suffering together, you know?
yeah, yeah.
So do you think there's more observations that we didn't really hit on?
Probably.
Yeah.
We didn't finish
We
the
didn't,
observation.
right, because we didn't get into spiritual.
And lots of applications.
Just give you guys some practice, maybe why don't you practice the hand motions and you can practice the lead through or something
Yeah,
for
yeah.
us. Stop the video and start it again for the last